We know that the world is virtual. It's not completely virtual anymore like it was last year when I taught this, but it's going to be more virtual than it's ever been. And that way it's going to continue. You're going to see some hybrid, but we are still going to see more virtual than we see in person. And so let's walk you through what that looks like. So you've got to have a virtual value proposition, right? This is no different than the value proposition you are offering, except when you're doing it virtually, you have to engage the audience to be with you virtually, right? I see so many people show up and give a talk virtually like they would give a talk in person, and it doesn't work. Virtual is different. So you have to get people with you from the very get-go. Innovate. Again, we're not going to talk a lot on all these because we've covered a lot, but I want you to know these all of your virtual talks need to encapsulate all of this. You got to be innovative. You've got to think of ways to get an audience to connect with you, get an audience to talk to you, get an audience to not be multitasking, get an audience to not be sending emails or texting while you are speaking. It's so much more important to be relevant virtually because there is a shorter attention span. There is the ability to be distracted at a higher level. And you guys have heard me teach on this a lot, the touch type talk, like get your audience to touch something with you. Get your audience to type something to you in the chat, in the Facebook Live, something, and get them to be in a conversation with you. Get them to talk back to you. Don't make it a monologue, make it a dialogue, right? Your energy has to be higher virtually. Ask with urgency for gigs and sales. This ties into energy. Virtual requires you to repeat yourself. It requires you to be more specific. It requires you to give even better direction because you're not most likely going to go meet them in the back of a room, right? You're not going to say, I'll meet you in the hall later and we can talk about that. So you have a very finite amount of time to get them to see you, hear you, take action, and step into your call to action. So it requires more urgency. It requires more specificity. And then, of course, the last is the lighting, sound, all of that, which we're going to do in our next session, right? Your lighting's got to be right. Your sound has to be right. The environment has to be right because this is your stage. You're bringing your stage with you. And so people have to trust you and you have to look like a pro and they have to be able to see you and hear you. And all of that has to work in your favor. So all of these are some of the things that we just touch on that are more related to virtual than they are in person and things that you want to think about and that you want to make sure that you are not forgetting when you are taking the virtual stage or when you are presenting not in an in-person environment. Okay.